have reached episode number 71 of the Gashouse Gang. We are presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling and by Game Day Men's Health, alongside of Pauley Miklasz in St. Louis. My name is Matt Pauley, coming your way from Jupiter, Florida, and Cardinals Spring Training. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day, whether you happen to be watching us live here Friday afternoon, catching us on the podcast later, catching us on the radio later, however you're bringing us in. We certainly appreciate it. Bernie, it's always great to talk to you, great to see you, and we once again have another day of Cardinals Spring Training where we get a few more details of what things might look like moving forward.
Yeah, Matt, and you're doing a great job down there as always, and I hope everything's going well for you. It looks like your living arrangements are good, solid.
Yeah,
so that's good. Yeah, there you go. I know you miss your family too, but thanks for all the hard work you're doing. So where do you want to start today?
Yeah, so first off, I want to encourage people to leave comments as we go along, especially if you're watching live on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like and do all that sort of stuff with @CamoX Sports. And while you're there, do that for Bernie's channel at The Bernie Show as well. I wanted to start with this because we finally got definitive word yesterday from John Mozeliak. There was a media event, and each year they do a media event where they bring all the managers and all the executives from the teams that are based in the Palm Beaches. So we're talking Astros, Nationals, Marlins, and Cardinals. And that's what the event was yesterday. So it was not a standard like Cardinals media session. It was more of a larger media event. That doesn't really matter, but just for the context of where it took place. Bernie, John Mozeliak said in no uncertain terms that Nolan Arenado is the Cardinals' third baseman and expect him to be that on opening day. So here everything that we have talked about for the last 3 months, we can just throw it in the trash can.
Yeah, for now the horse race is over. I'm wondering whether the Cardinals would win by making a trade to open up some space for Nolan Gorman at third and right on down the line, and whether Nolan Arenado would win by getting to a team that has an obvious much better chance than the Cardinals to win in the postseason and win big. So it didn't work out for either side. And I'm comfortable, as you know, because we've talked about it. I'm comfortable with Arenado being their third baseman because, and I don't want to keep beating this into the ground, but if the Cardinals were truly in a rebuild mode or truly in an aggressive reset mode, then it would be more important to move Arenado, but they're really not in a rebuild mode and they're not in a super aggressive reset mode. So he makes them a better team. He still has value in a lot of ways. And I'm sure all those ground ball pitchers the Cardinals have will like having him and Mason Wynn on the left side of the infield. And I think a lot of the offseason work Arenado has done, I really would not be surprised if he exceeds expectations offensively this year. He's a really hungry guy, man. He wants to show everyone that he's still got it, and he is still to be a feared hitter. So that kind of stuff is actually good for the Cardinals because he feels like he has something to prove.
John Mozeliak mentioned yesterday that every time he had conversations about Arenado, every time something got close, there was like that small voice in the back of his head that kept saying, Arenado is about to have a breakout year compared to what he was last year. Now we'll see if that happens or not. If it does happen, it's good for Arenado. It's good for the Cardinals. It's good for the Cardinals in terms of winning. It's also good for the Cardinals in terms of re-engaging teams that might be interested in him. But the bat speed stuff from last year certainly concerns me. There is legitimate decline that goes along with that. He's done some things. He's done like kickboxing or Muay Thai or, that sort of stuff here in the off season to try to work on that. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. All we can do is wait and watch and start to find out. The good thing, Bernie, is with all the data that's out there, if he has legitimately improved bat speed, we'll be able to tell right away.
He started working on that, in the season in 2024. Like he was sort of doing it on the fly. But I did the research on that in July and August. Those 2 months, he had his highest, if you take it as a 2-month block, he had his quickest bat of the season, and his numbers were very good. So I think the potential is there for him to increase his bat speed because we saw it a little bit last year. It didn't hold until the end of the season. For a while there, it was a really nice turnaround. And I think he's doing all Derek Gould alluded to it, some other people alluded to it, training hard to just become more explosive with his hands. So I think he's putting his work in the right thing. So we'll see how he does. If I'm just reluctant to count him out offensively. I mean, not that you are or anyone else is, but I'm a realist. I'm pragmatic. There are some obvious warning signs, and he seems to be, quote, an old 34, which he'll be soon. But Matt, do you mind if I sound like an old timer here and tell a story from the old days?
Feel free.
No, and you know what? The only reason I'm bringing this up too, because believe it or not, it's something. There's something. Bill DeWitt Jr. is connected to this. All right, I'm a kid in Baltimore. I'm 7 years old. The Orioles make a trade with the Cincinnati Reds. They get Frank Robinson. People were saying, well, the Reds should have gotten more, but yeah, Robinson's 30, 31, but he's kind of an old 31, and he's probably starting a period in his career where he's not going to be as productive. And I think Bill DeWitt's father, who made the trade, referred to Robinson as an old 30. Like he's 30, but he's an old 30. Well, Frank Robinson was a very proud man, very, 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 very offended and ticked off by this. So he never needed to be motivated because he was a fierce competitor, but he viewed that as like, okay, I'm going to show you now. I'm old. Okay, we'll show you. So all he did in 1966, his first year with the Orioles, is win the Triple Crown, win the MVP award, and lead the Cardinals to, excuse me. There you go. I like it.
Wow, look at that. Drew Young for the win.
And lead, that's awesome, Drew. And was a huge part of, obviously, of an Orioles team that shocked the world and won the World Series by sweeping the Dodgers. I swear to you, Matt, it might have been 10 years ago. We were in Cincinnati, and I asked Bill DeWitt Jr., who was there. I said, I'm a Baltimore kid, and I love Frank Robinson, and I'm not trying to rub it in, but what were you guys thinking trading him? And I said, Bill, not you, but your dad. And Bill, really did not like it even being brought up. It was all those years later, it was still a sore spot. So my point is, when people like me point to Arenado's age and some signs of decline, it's interesting how it doesn't always play out as we think, and the DeWitt family knows well about that because of the Frank Robinson story.
Yeah, the thing I keep going back to, and I don't want to repeat everything we talked about yesterday.
Sure.
That's a great story, Bernie. But for a Hall of Fame guy who holds himself to a ridiculously high standard, for a team to not be able to pull off a trade for him, for there not to be that much interest, that's got to stick at Arenado, right, in a big way. Yeah,
I totally agree. He's got a lot of pride, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a bounce back. I mean, what level of bounce back offensively? Well, I'm not sure, but nothing would surprise me really. So we'll see what happens. But I want to ask you this, because ever since Mo came forward and volunteered the information about what they're thinking, I've been rolling around this in my mind because I like to be thorough. But it's like I don't see a bad guy here. Do you see a bad guy here?
No. I see John Mozeliak not being able to accomplish what he stated that he was going to accomplish, but I don't think I would refer to that as being a bad guy. It's just a guy who didn't do what he wanted to do. Because Arenado he's not trying to leave St. Louis. The Cardinals weren't trying to push him out of St. Louis because they were unhappy with him. They were doing it for other reasons. So no, I unless I'm not thinking about this from a position that I should be, I don't see the quote unquote bad guy in all this.
No, I'm with you. And listen, in this, from the Arenado standpoint, I think it's important that we all remember this, especially the fans. He didn't approach the Cardinals. The Cardinals approached him about a trade. He said, well, I don't, I like playing in St. Louis, but yeah, I'm hungry to win a championship. So yeah, go ahead and try to gauge what's out there. But he didn't demand a trade. He didn't say I want out, period. What he said to Mo was very reasonable. And again, the Cardinals broached the subject. Arenado did not broach the subject. Arenado also had a chance to opt out and he didn't. He stayed. There's also a situation, if you go back to the winter warm-up, and I don't have to tell you, you were covering it. Bill DeWitt, when he gave his news conference that day, or he took questions, he said repeatedly, if Nolan Arenado is a Cardinal in 2025, we can't find something that works for him. We'll be very happy. We'll be very happy to have Nolan Arenado back playing third base for us. And he was a point of emphasis for him. So I believe it. I believe they are happy because, again, at that time, the Cardinals thought maybe there was going to be a more aggressive reset. But when Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras said, no, we have no trade clauses. We want to stay here. We want to help you get through it. It kind of changed the scope of everything. And I think the Cardinals look at Nolan Arenado as an asset. Were they trying to save money? Yeah, that's what you do if you're in a true reset. But do they think he can still play? Yeah, I think they do. And the other thing about Mo is that the biggest mistake he made was kind of overstating the likelihood of trading Arenado. The thing that's not Mozeliak's fault at all is that the possibility of a trade was greatly limited by Arenado's power to veto any trade. I mean, think about if he didn't have that no trade clause. I'm sure you'd see teams like Seattle, really, really coming hard for Arenado. And I'm talking about earlier in the offseason, the Kansas City Royals, Detroit. We can name a bunch of teams, right? But if he's going to veto the Houston Astros, he would have vetoed some of these other teams. And so Mo's opportunities were limited. I am hardly a Mo apologist these days, but you got to try to be fair. I know that he's the devil, to so many people, but when a dude's got a no trade clause, and that no trade clause came in his Colorado contract that transferred here, you don't have. There's just not many possibilities on the table.
Your friend of mine, Derek Gould, tweeted yesterday, February 2021, Nolan Arenado reworks deal to seek trade to Cardinals. September of 21, does not exercise first opt-out. October 22, opt-in to remaining 2 years of contract. December 24th, vetoes trade to Astros, making the point he has chosen the Cardinals on 4 separate occasions.
Thank you. Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to point out about this, and I hope it's okay to point this out, let me know when we need to take a break, but I'll try to keep this limited, is that, Arenado wanted to be a Cardinal because he thought the Cardinals would give him a chance to be in the postseason all the time, right? And therefore a chance to win a championship. But looking back on it, and, hindsight's 2020, but if you think about it, and I don't include the 2020 season, it was not a normal season. Cardinals made the playoffs, so it wasn't a normal season. But at the time of the trade, the Cardinals had only made the playoffs one time in the previous 4 full seasons. So I think the terrain had already started to change, and I don't think Arenado was cognizant of that, and I don't even blame him for that. But the other thing is, it's easy to say, well, they didn't put a good enough team around him and Paul Goldschmidt. Listen, there's plenty of blame to go around the fact that Goldie and Arenado as teammates were 0-3 in the postseason. There's plenty of blame to go around. Of course, John Mozeliak, who's in the dunking booth, he's going to get the blame for everything, right? If the chicken salad down in spring training is a little funky or something, it's Mo's fault. Everything's Mo's fault. I get that. But when you acquire a Goldie and an Arenado, you expect a certain level of production, and you expect them to be difference makers in the postseason. And they were. 2 for 22, 7 strikeouts, 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position in those 3 games. I'm not blaming them saying, oh, it's their fault. I'm just saying one of the reasons they got them is because they wanted impact. They wanted a better offense in the postseason. So they share some of the responsibility for the fact that Arenado never got that championship shot, because he actually did have a couple shots at it. It happens in the postseason. It doesn't mean he's a bust. It doesn't mean that he lacked competitive courage or something. It happens. But I think that needs to be pointed out too. I don't think the Cardinals failed Arenado. I just think some of the stuff that was below the surface that was starting to pull the Cardinals down really started to kick in when the farm system collapsed, things like that. And when he and Goldie had a chance, they didn't get it done. But we're talking 3 games, small sample, but that is what postseason baseball is.
It's the Gashouse Gang. We are presented by Game Day Men's Health. Bernie, we are also brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling.
Thank you, Matt. Always happy to talk about my friend Dan Saliga and everyone at Saliga Heating and Cooling. We love them. They have been great to us for 16 years as St. Louis homeowners. And no surprise there, because Saliga Heating and Cooling has been taking care of St. Louis families since 1927. This proud independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer has set the standard in this community for taking care of families, whether it be in the scorching hot summer, making sure the air conditioning is just right, whether it's the frigid, the most Arctic blast type of winter, making sure your heat is okay. There's a lot of other things they do to service your home that aren't like directly related to heating and cooling, but they can handle anything you have in your home. And I want you all to, one thing I always feel it's important to mention this. We've been a client for 16 years, and we have found them to be 100% honest every single step of the way, knowledgeable, professional, all that good stuff. But go to Saliga Heating and Cooling and check out the Priority Club. It's a maintenance plan. It'll save you money. It'll give you peace of mind. Also, they have financing options available always at Saliga Heating and Cooling, subject to credit approval. They also have that independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealership there. So go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com for more information on all this. Thank you.
Alongside of Bernie Miklasz, I'm Matt Pauley. This is the Gashouse Gang. We are brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling and also Game Day Men's Health. One final kind of tentacle off this Arenado thing that I want to get to before we move on to some other Cardinals things. Bernie, people keep asking about the awkwardness of Arenado coming in. And we talked, he's got a lot of friends in that clubhouse. We talked to some of them yesterday. They are all excited about Arenado coming in. Oliver Marmol has always planned for Arenado being here. He wasn't going to change those plans until Arenado was not a Cardinal anymore. Arenado's been working with Brent Brown and doing all that stuff in the offseason. Players who are being impacted by this, they have fully communicated up front kind of the 2 different paths. So I get why you asked the question, but I think we're making way too much of the idea that maybe there's going to be some awkwardness when he walks in. There's going to be a media scrum, and he's going to have to answer a whole bunch of questions he probably doesn't want to answer. But outside of that, it's going to be business as usual.
I mean, I'm so glad to hear you say that. Because I think this is one of the silliest things I've ever seen in my time being in the media here in St. Louis. You know, Nolan Arenado works in an industry that last year had a record $12.5 billion of revenue. The point being is, as much as we'd all like to have this romantic notion that it's a child's game, it's a kid's game. No, it's actually a business. The Cardinals are worth $2.55 billion as a franchise. Cold-hearted decisions are made. Players come and go. Players follow their own business instincts, or they take care of their own business. If they have a chance to leave the team they're with because there's a lot more money elsewhere, well, they'll make a business decision and go. If the Cardinals decide, for example, well, we really treasured Paul Goldschmidt, but he's a free agent, I don't think we want to resign him. So they made the business decision to part companies. Business decisions are made all the time. Players know this. So I'm trying to figure out why there would be awkwardness. Is this middle school? Is this senior prom night where what happened to me, you know, a girlfriend broke up with me and I didn't know why. And then she walked into the senior prom with one of my friends. Ooh. That was awkward. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awkwardness. Major League Baseball is a tremendously profitable, huge revenue flow. Everybody makes money business. And the Cardinals made an attempt to make Arenado happy by moving him to a place he wanted to go. They gave it their best shot. It didn't fall into place because Bregman went to the Red Sox, or I think Arenado would have been gone to Boston. To your point, the players stick with each other in these things. What do you think? Like Lars Nootbaar, Brendan Donovan, all those guys, Mason Wynn, they're somehow, it's like, oh, well, he kind of wanted to be traded. Well, he's not going to sit at our table at lunch. You know, that kind of, are people that stupid that they fail to understand the dynamics of baseball? The Cardinals players, as you know, man, they really think they can win. They're fired up to like prove everyone wrong. They want Nolan Arenado to play third base. There's no residue between Mozeliak and Arenado. They both gave it a chance. Arenado, if he really wanted to get out of here, he could have approved the Houston deal, but he didn't. It just, this time the business decision didn't pay off for either party. So why is that awkward? I'm at a loss to understand this narrative. Listen, you know what's going to happen, and I'll shut up after this, man. I'm sorry. You know what's going to happen? He's going to show up at Jupiter, and he's going to go in the clubhouse, and what's going to happen is the traditional, it's been going on since baseball began, the traditional clubhouse humor. People are going to be like bagging on him a little bit. They're going to be like zinging him. They're going to be, just giving him some crap and all that stuff. And he's going to laugh, and he's going to give some zingers back, and everyone will laugh, and then they'll all go to work.
Yeah.
So where is the awkwardness? I mean, people are just making stuff up.
It also goes back to what you asked me earlier in the show. Where's the bad guy? If there was a bad guy in this, it might be different, but Nolan didn't ask to be traded. And the reason the Cardinals wanted to trade him had nothing to do with him. And it had everything to do with others and payroll. So no bad guy, no awkwardness. Everything's going to be fine.
It just, now go play ball, man. Go play ball. And the other thing too, and I know that, don't get me wrong, and I mentioned this when we were texting before the show, one of the tentacles that you referred to is the fact, well, they really did want to play Nolan Gorman at third base. Okay, I get it. That would have been fine. That would have been nice. But come on, let's keep this real here. Nolan Gorman is in the major leagues for one thing. He's in the major leagues to hit, and to hit for power, and to do it consistently. His glove is an accessory. The thing that matters, the thing that is essential, is his bat and his performance offensively. I mean, the fact that he can't play third base this year or whatever, or he won't be there much, come on, this is a secondary concern. It's just not that big of a deal. It does complicate Ali Marmol's, as we've talked about, his putting together a lineup every day in a way that's going to give enough at bats to everybody. But listen, it's baseball. All managers have to wrestle with these things.
Alongside of Pauley Miklasz, I'm Matt Pauley. It's the Gashouse Gang. We're presented by Game Day Men's Health and Saliga Heating and Cooling. Bernie, there was one, I had a red flag moment today when I was listening to Oliver Marmol talk. I'll raise my credential because I don't have a red flag. This is my flag. I asked Ollie, how comfortable are you with Lars Nootbaar playing a lot of center field? The inference being he would probably need to play there because you got to put Donovan in left because you've got Gorman at second. And we all know I love Ollie. Ollie didn't really answer the question. He just kind of talked about the things Nootbaar needs to do and, to play a little bit of center field, and more talked about his defensive profile than answering the question. So Derek Gould then asked a follow-up that was a more direct, hey, are you guys going to play Nootbaar a lot? Is that the way it's going to work out? And man, oh man, again, he didn't fully answer the question, but when he read between the lines, he sounded like a man who's ready to put Michael Ciani or Victor Scott in at center field in front of Lars Nootbaar, no matter the circumstance. So there's a lot of time left before he's got to write up a lineup card in a big league game, and he made that point. I'm not trying to be an alarmist right now, but he did not say, yes, Nootbaar playing 100 games in center field is a legit possibility if we have to play Donovan in left because we've got Gorman at second.
So last season, the Cardinals center field spot offensively batted .209. They had an OPS that was like 541. They were something like they hit their center fielders hit 4 home runs and 560 some at bats. And overall, if you use one of the fancy metrics, they were 29th in offense in the center field position. If you take the last 2 years combined, 23 and 24, the Cardinals were 27th in offense from the center field position. The Cardinals offense has been awful. Okay. There's no other way to put it. It's been awful. Why is it that Ali Marmol thinks that given the huge test that this offense faces for the third year in a row to actually be good, why is it that he thinks it's okay to have a defensive specialist in center field where your offense and center field has been just an absolutely horrendous bottomless pit of like nothing? Like, what, this team isn't good enough to have a defensive specialist in center field. This team needs to get more offense out of the outfield in general and center field in particular. And Lars Nootbaar could play average defense. That's a willing trade-off if you're going to get better offense.
And we talk so much about Nolan Gorman getting 600 at bats, 600 plate appearances. Well, Lars Nootbaar needs that. Brendan Donovan needs that. Like, those are your everyday guys in the lineup. And outside of like benching Alec Burleson and using the DH specifically for those guys, which I think you can use the DH in a more effective way. Outside of that, there's not a scenario where those guys are everyday guys where Michael Ciani is also your everyday center fielder. Now, look, if it's Victor Scott, let's have a different conversation because he's the young guy, the runway. He's going to be the everyday center fielder at some point in the future. So I don't want to put Scott and Ciani in the exact same basket here, but specific to Ciani, who's probably the leader in the clubhouse right now, you can't accomplish what you want to accomplish offensively with Ciani being your everyday center fielder.
And I've seen some people say, well, Nootbaar gets hurt a lot. And, so maybe they don't, it would probably be foolish to put him in center field because it's more demanding. And listen, I'm not even saying that that's false. What I'm saying is he's a professional ball player. He's had injuries, most of which have been minor. I mean, he didn't blow out a knee. He didn't have to have shoulder surgery. There's a lot of wear and tear in ball players, and he could also make better decisions by not running into walls when he doesn't have to. But so the people that are saying, well, don't put him in center. Why? He'll get hurt. So what do you want to do? Does he have to wear bubble wrap underneath his uniform when he goes out there for games? Like, are you going to, like, we always order stuff and it's like, how those little styrofoam peanuts. Yeah. You're into packing boxes. What are you going to do? Is he like, you're going to like tape, you're going to wrap them in, those styrofoam like peanuts.
It can be a sponsorship. An Amazon truck can deliver him to center field every game.
I mean, seriously, are you going to, are you send him out there wearing a suit of armor? Like what? It's baseball, people. Okay. One of the determinations about Nootbaar is like, is he ever going to be able to stay healthy? And, therefore to let his offense and all the things he can do kick in with more magnitude. And that question applies no matter where he plays, but you don't avoid putting him in center field. What you're going to manage scared? Your fans are going to be scared. Again, these are professional athletes. If Lars Nootbaar plays center field and does a great job, he'll only increase his value to the Cardinals. And then when he becomes a free agent, I mean, you can't protect players who have to be in the outfield running around.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, Bruce.
Let me dumb this down. Like, I know it's more complicated than what I'm about to make it out to be. And I say this is a guy who watches baseball and doesn't play baseball. Is center field really that much tougher than one of the corner outfield spots? Yeah, you're running for everything in each gap. I get that, but you're only going to sprint speed a couple more times probably. And Nootbaar's injuries aren't really connected to him going to sprint speed all that much. Like, I think we make way too much of the idea that center field is this like way, way, way more dangerous position than a corner outfield spot.
Yeah, I do too. And I think players can exercise some discretion. Like, how do I put this without sounding like a jerk? Okay, I won't worry about sounding like a jerk. I don't need style points. Okay. I don't need a guy anywhere in the outfield, but especially center field, who wants to style it up and make a catch look a lot tougher than it really was by diving. Okay. I don't care if he gets a diamond web jam award from ESPN. I don't care. I don't need to see a guy scaling a wall, running into the wall because he's going to try to make some Spider-Man catch to save prevent a home run, and where the truth is, it's like the ball's going to be a home run anyway. I don't need a guy running into walls to show, oh man, that guy's tough. Look at that. This isn't the Westminster Kennel Club. I don't need, this isn't a dog show. Okay. I don't need like added entertainment value with outfielders, including center fielders, living on the edge of recklessness because they're trying to put on a show and they're trying to get ESPN to put them in the top 10 plays that night. I don't need that. Just go make the catch. Don't do stupid things.
And Newt Bar's going to make 90% of the plays that Michael Ciani makes. That's the thing that I never can completely grasp. I love having a great defense out there and guys who can make an impact with their glove. I'm not being completely dismissive of that, but to take a non-bat and put it into the lineup because of their defensive prowess, when that guy's going to make 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 at most plays a week that the other guy didn't make. Most of those plays are going to be inconsequential because that's what most plays in baseball are. There's very few plays that actually impact who wins and loses. You just got to be ready to make those plays when they do. So maybe there's one of those a week. Maybe we're exchanging that for 4 at-bats a game. What? That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I'd like to do a study on this, and I think I will. Now you got me going. I'll probably be working tomorrow instead of relaxing, just looking up stuff. But no, you're so right. And I know, like, for example, part of it was, I think, that the rather bad experience with Tyler O'Neill. They wanted to make him a center fielder. But Tyler O'Neill, when they put him in center field, famously, as we know, because Ali Marmol called him out for just going way too far, trying to protect himself on the base paths and in center field. Tyler O'Neill's a different animal than Lars Nootbaar. And my point here is not to disparage O'Neill. I mean, we've been through all this before, but this just to contrast them. O'Neill is a type of guy, and I'm being facetious, but maybe not too much. He walks into the clubhouse and he makes a coffee and he spills some of it on his hand. He's out for 2 weeks. Nootbaar's not that kind of guy. And we saw Tyler O'Neill like visibly and noticeably not pursue some catches that could have been made that would not have required the type of risk that you could get yourself hurt. We saw him hold up on the base paths. So when I hear a fan or someone in the media say, well, they tried this with Tyler O'Neill and it didn't work. Listen, one of the reasons the Red Sox, even though he had a great year for them last year, they just said, nah, is because it was one thing after another. Oh, this fingernail. My fingernail. It's a little sensitive. I got to go on the IL. They're two totally different guys.
100%.
Yeah.
This is the Gashouse Gang presented by Game Day Men's Health. Of course, Bernie, we are brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling.
Yeah, and I wanted to elaborate. Saliga Heating and Cooling has been around since 1927. And you see the phone number there, so take note of it. But you can go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com for the phone number and more information. But this is an independent American standard heating and air conditioning dealer, so you get the best equipment there is if you need equipment. And Saliga family, man, total credibility. 1927, still going strong. Same family owning it now. Dan Saliga is the owner operator. They have high standards and a lot of pride in what they do. But I wanted to elaborate on, and our experience is like total honesty and professionalism. But I wanted to elaborate a little bit real quick on this Priority Club because I think it's worthwhile for you, or at least you can consider it. And listen, I wouldn't advise you to do it unless we did it. We're members of the Priority Club, and we're very happy. It's a maintenance program that helps you make sure you're ready for all seasons, but especially the hot summer and the really cold winter. And if you become a member of the Priority Club, there are some benefits, like the preventive maintenance alone is going to give you peace of mind. Everything is safe and working smoothly. There won't be any surprises. It also extends the lifetime of your equipment because the maintenance checks will be just that. You check for things, and if there's something that they need to tweak or adjust, they do it. Minor part that needs to be replaced, they do it. So you're going to benefit in the long run, and you also get some other perks in the Priority Club. So I would just advise you to go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com and find out more about this great American standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside of Bernie Miklasz, I'm Matt Pauley. Just a few minutes left in this edition of the Gashouse Gang. Last time we did the show together, Bernie, I said I was going to do a better job of reading comments. So let's spend a few minutes on some of the
Sure.
comments before we get out of here. We're going to go back to Ken Gregory, who earlier in the show said, why can't the organization help the hometown hitters by moving the walls in like Baltimore did since they play 81 games there? Bernie, I would not be upset if the Busch Stadium walls came in a little bit.
No, I wouldn't either. I think in the past they've studied this. They studied it after all of the construction beyond the outfield as Busch Stadium took place, Ballpark Village, but also some high rises and things like that. And it did affect the wind currents inside the stadium. It became a little tougher yard to hit home runs, but it's not as bad as it used to be. I think it's leveled off a bit. It's still a pitcher-friendly park now. This could help their hitters hit more home runs, but also you look at Cardinals starting pitchers and you look at their relievers and go look at the home run rate against Cardinals starting pitchers. The Cardinals win out on this because I've looked at it. They win out on this because their pitchers, it's extraordinary, like the low home run rate against them in that ballpark. And the Cardinals hitters are at a disadvantage. But how do I put this? But their Cardinals pitchers have more of an advantage than the Cardinals hitters have a disadvantage, if that makes sense. Now, that said, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't want you to think I'd be opposed to it. I also want to remind everyone, home runs are really nice and they're very impactful. I like doubles too.
Yeah.
I like doubles. Cardinals don't hit as many doubles as they should.
No, that's when I talk about power, I'm talking about doubles and home runs. And you bring the walls in, you get more home runs. You push the walls out, you probably get more double. That's one of the problems with Colorado. I would bring the walls in Colorado to limit doubles and just let them hit more home runs because that's what kills the Rockies. It's how big that outfield is.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Joey sent in and said, Ciani should play center when Herrera catches. When Pages catches, Newt should play center. This way you don't have two less than average bats in there at the same time. I want to go to like the spirit of that question as opposed to the actual details of that because things are going to be impacted by righties and lefties and who's on the mound and things like that. But going back to our Ciani conversation, Bernie, if the Cardinals have this incredible run-scoring offense, if Nootbaar and Contreras and Arenado and Gorman and Walker all just like take these amazing steps forward, well then put Ciani in center field. It's fine. Like you don't need that. When I talk about why Newt should be in center field over Ciani, I'm going based off the idea that last year they were terrible scoring runs, and they really haven't been a really good run-scoring team in a while. So I want this team set up from Jump Street to be a team that's best built to score runs.
Absolutely, because it's their biggest flaw. If they had a good offense last year, I can't say, well, that's a playoff team, but they had a postseason caliber bullpen. The rotation was solid. Was it great? No, but it was solid.
Yeah.
The offense was a drag on that team the entire season. So if you're not going to take steps, when you already have personnel in place to where you can make the offense better by not starting players who are liabilities offensively just because they give you an edge on defense, then I can't help you. Frankly, that's just not good thinking or good managing unless the orders are coming from elsewhere.
Look, the Cardinals finished 6 games out of a playoff spot last year, and once it became clear that they weren't going to be a playoff team, they fell back even further. They're legitimately 2 or 3 games out of a playoff spot based off the way they played, and they win 5 more games probably with a much better offense. It might be even more profound than that. So I will solidly, confidently state if the Cardinals would have been a good offensive club last year, they would have been a playoff team as well.
They would have been right there. Been right there. And I think some improvement's going to kind of take place organically in 2025 because batting average of runners in scoring position really fluctuates from year to year. You know, it doesn't mean that if you were bad at it one year, you're going to be bad at it the next year. As a team, they didn't have real good batted ball luck with runners in scoring position. So that'll even out a little bit. I'm not getting carried away, but I think that's going to come up in 2025.
That's Bernie Miklasz. I'm Matt Pauley. Thanks so much for being tuned in to this edition of the Gashouse Gang. Don't forget, make sure to subscribe to Bernie's YouTube channel at The Bernie Show and also at KMOX Sports. Bernie, always great to talk to you. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch up again on Monday.
Matt, always love talking and working with you, my friend. So have a great weekend and look forward to seeing you Monday here on the Gashouse Gang.
We've been brought to you by
a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been brought to you by Game Day Men's Health and Saliga Heating and Cooling. Thanks for being tuned in. Have a great weekend. Talk to you on Monday.